at 560theanswer.com.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
You got to know when to hold up.
Yeah.
Know when to fold up. Know when to walk away. And know when to run.
That's the guy with the chicken joints, right? Kenny Rogers Roasters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Sing it. When the dew is gone.
No, all right. I'm glad we didn't come back with Islands in the Stream. That would have been
we
awkward.
should do that as a duet.
Yeah. All right. So President Trump walked from the negotiating table with Kim Jong-un. He wanted too much, and he was willing to give too little. So we're done with this round two of the U.S.-North Korean summit. It would appear, for more on the backstory and whether or not President Trump made a judicious decision, we're pleased to be joined again by Jed Babbin, former U.S. Deputy Undersecretary of Defense and a contributor to the Washington Times and the American Spectator. Jed, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, good morning, guys.
So did President Trump know when to fold him in this instance?
Yeah, I think he did exactly the right thing. I mean, he could not have done otherwise. Kim is obviously never going to give up his nuclear weapons and his ballistic missiles. And, as Dan Coates, the Director of National Intelligence, forecasted, there's not going to be any real development through these summits. So, Trump embarrassed Kim, which is a good thing to do, and just basically walked away. I think he had no choice and, quite frankly, did the right thing at the right time.
Now, was President Trump surprised that Kim Jong-un wanted to have the U.S. lift all of the sanctions?
Amy, I don't know. God knows I don't know what's in Trump's mind. But I think that he might have been somewhat surprised. It's possible. But in any event, it really didn't matter whether the surprise was there or not. Both sides were looking for some sort of big media payoff on that. And I don't think Kim got it. I think Trump got a good surprise and, a good lift on what his decision was. And, I think it goes on from here. It's going to create a very dangerous situation, of course, but no more dangerous than it really was even before the summit.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this is received by the deep thinkers in the D.C. press corps who previous to...
That is an oxymoron.
Well, yes, exactly. That was said tongue fully in cheek. But the previous handle on President Trump as opposed to North Korea, President Trump is as much of a rogue as Kim Jong-un is, and he'll do anything. He'll give away the store, will President Trump, just to get a deal done for the press release. So I don't know how the D.C. press corps is going to spin this development.
Well, of course, they'll blame him now. They were blaming him
Right.
for pulling off a meaningless stunt, and now they're going to blame him for not obtaining some great, world-changing deal. The guy can't win as far as the press goes, but again, he did the right thing. And, at this point, there really isn't much point in doing any more summits with Kim. I think Kim has lost face significantly, not only towards us, but towards the rest of the world and his own people. So he's going to have to recover. You're probably going to see more missile launches. You might even see another nuclear test. And, things are going to hot up pretty fast in North Korea. But, again, it really doesn't change anything.
Sounds like a job for Dennis Rodman.
Well, did you see? Oh, yeah. Dennis Rodman wasn't part of the conversation this time. Did you see Kim Jong-un when he was smoking his cigarette and his sister was walking around like a subservient fool holding his crystal ashtray? Did you see that, Jeb?
No, I didn't, but I'm not surprised, Amy. This is the kind of thing that he does, that Kim does, and he demands. He thinks himself as a god, and, his generals kind of say, yeah, you're a god, and kind of probably snicker amongst themselves. But he's the prop they hold up, and he is a very powerful man at the same time. And, again, the guy is not particularly rational. He does not give a damn about his own people. You can basically look at the old satellite photo I've got hung on my wall. Basically North Korea is dark while
Right.
South Korea is lit up at night. And, the people are living in the dark and the cold and pretty much starving. He doesn't care.
Speaking of...
this is going to be a situation that's not going to resolve itself anytime soon.
Well, speaking of South Korea and Japan, and what much has been made, including by Secretary of State Pompeo, about the good working relationship the United States has had with those two allies with respect to North Korea, Was there real optimism in Southeast Asia that anything was going to get done here? Did Trump's decision at all rock the relationships with South Korea and Japan, or did they have a properly skeptical view going in as well?
Well, I think you can't lump them together, Dan. The Japanese have a very clear view of North Korea and the danger from Kim, and I think they're trying to rearm and making some big decisions themselves, including deploying American-made missile defenses. The South Koreans, you've got Moon Jae-in, the president there. He's very much a liberal, and he was trying to make up, with Kim himself. I think there's going to be some discord with South Korea, but I don't think it's going to be terribly serious because, after all, they depend on us to defend them, and we really are not going to leave, and they really can't afford us to leave.
We talked to Jim Carafano from Heritage Foundation yesterday on the same topic, and I asked him the question about China's role here, involvement here, and whether or not the decision to forestall additional tariffs as trade negotiations continue. You had Lighthizer on the Hill yesterday testifying on the topic. He suggested those are sort of independent decisions, and frankly, China would be happy with North Korea denuclearizing as well if that was something that was a possibility. So they're not propping up North Korea per se, but that the trade issue between the U.S. and China is separate and distinct from North Korea, and the possibility of sort of doing a bank shot on North Korea with Chinese help is unlikely.
Well, I can take that apart in several different ways, but I strongly disagree that China is obviously and massively propping up North Korea. I mean, they are producing the trucks that make the North Korean missiles a threat, the missile launch trucks. They are backing Kim. And, the real issue here is whether China has enough control over the Kim regime to really bring them to do something major like denuclearize. They might and they might not, but in any event, they're not trying. North Korea is something that's keeping us busy and diverting us from other things. The Chinese trade deal is, all of the things come together. China right now is quite weak economically. They're needing a trade deal with us, and I think that we can get a better trade deal regardless of what happens in North Korea than what is going to happen there as a result of Trump canceling the summit.
And what's
the Chinese are backing up Kim till hell won't hold it, guys.
Well, I guess that's the point, though. So does Trump walking away from North Korea give him more leverage with the Chinese? Because he's basically saying, look, I'm not going to get anything from them. You're no help with them. So that's not a chit that you can play with me.
Well, I don't think that's a chit he can play with them. I think they have really in mind that they hold, $23 trillion worth of American debt that they can try to call in at any time. They are very strong, and despite the fact their economy is quite weak at this point, they have no reason to bargain with Trump any more than they are. They want trade. They need trade with us. I don't think that they're going to even think about North Korea in terms of what they can get from us in a trade agreement.
Now, what's Russia's role in North Korea's nuclear program?
Well, I'm not entirely clear on that, Amy. I think they have been giving help to the North Koreans for some period of time. I can't define precisely what that is, but Russia's role everywhere is to make trouble whenever they can and wherever they can. I mean, that's kind of in their blood. It's what Mr. Putin does for a living and has since he joined the KGB. So there really is not a whole lot of surprise there. But China holds the whip hand to the extent that anybody does. And again, I'm not sure that they have enough power to really change what Kim is doing.
And Trump has seemed to make a bit of a reversal on his withdrawal from Syria. The report suggesting he's going to leave 400 troops in Syria pending the eradication of some of the last remnants of the caliphate, which may be a bit yet. Is that also a judicious retrenching?
Not really. I don't see what we're doing in Syria, except for the fact that we're trying to protect the Kurds from Turkey. I don't know that we're going to be doing that effectively. And certainly if we pull out, the Kurds are going to be subjected to some very merciless attacks. So to the extent that we have any troops there, it's probably a placeholder and nothing more. But the president has said so many times he wants to pull people out of there in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's going to be doing these things. And The real issue is what happens next. In Syria, clearly it's the Turks kill the Kurds. In Iraq, it's a very muddled picture that Iran is going to be basically dominating. And in Afghanistan, you've got China and Russia supplying the Taliban, and that's going to fall apart, in microseconds. So, there's a lot to talk about and a lot of things that we can forecast and some things we can't. But right now, I think the president's retrenchment in these areas, quite frankly, does not have enough thought to it in terms of what happens next.
He is Jed Babbin, former U.S. Deputy Undersecretary of Defense, now a contributor to the Washington Times and the American Spectator. Jed, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.